The Oklahoma City Thunder select Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga University.
What a pass. Giddy underneath for JRE. The reverse and the rookie-to-rookie action. SGA defended closely by Westbrook. Tough step back. Gets up the shot. Banks it in for the lead.
This is Udart. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, and welcome to the Uncontested podcast, coming to you live Sunday, September 5th. We're brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network and dailythunder.com. Gentlemen, first time in a long time, we have the entire Uncontested crew here. We have Nick Crane, who is yet to watch House of the Dragon, or as I like to call it, Hot D.
Wow, all six of us, and I'm first to be called out. It's truly an honor.
You're welcome. We've got JD in the house.
Fellas.
Clear the throat.
We've got the man Justin Peabody here.
Hello, everybody.
Just for the record, for the fans, Justin did not screw up the sticker order this time. They are on the way.
Hey, you're welcome.
We've got Taylor Peterson.
Just super excited to debate some NBA 2K Thunder ratings with you guys.
And we've got the one and only Kami Armoramian.
Hey, I'm here. And everybody's here. Hey, this is the first time we've had everybody actually here.
Yeah.
Been a minute.
Yeah, Brian Sinot in the chat says, shit, we have a basketball team +1. Who's the sixth man?
I was just about to say, who's the sixth man?
That's tough.
Is it
no,
me?
no,
Justin's
Justin,
starting.
you're starting center. Come on.
Get that humble
Yeah.
stuff out of here.
It's not humble. It's lack of conditioning.
No, we need rim
I
protection.
can't handle starters minutes. I'm not in game shape. I'm like Zion.
I'm like
I
Zion.
don't know. Who would be the sixth man?
I
Would
can
I
be
be
the
the
spark
sixth
off
man?
the bench.
I'll come off the bench. But when I come in, I'm shooting everything.
If
Yeah,
Taylor
well,
came out-
already
regardless
said
of if
sixth
Nick
man
is
of the
starting
year.
or coming off the bench, he's shooting
Gosh.
everything, I think.
When we played that
ISO
game,
Nick.
Nick was at the top of the key and surrounded by everybody. I was like, oh, play's dead. And this man threw the ball off the backboard, caught the rebound, and made the layup. And I just stood like I saw Jesus. I was like, what? Did I just see that in a pickup game? That was pretty fun. So, yeah.
Treat
That was a good
every
time.
game like the All-Star game.
And one Nick Crane over here. I love it. Gentlemen, we're going to talk some basketball tonight. The biggest thing going around the NBA right now, obviously, the Donovan Mitchell trade, kind of coming out of nowhere. We all thought New York Knicks. Turns out the New York Knicks either pissed away an opportunity, they overestimated Utah's ability to find another trade partner, whatever. Donovan Mitchell does not get traded to the Knicks. Instead, he ends up with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the entire trade. Donovan Mitchell to the Cavs. In return, Utah gets Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, the number 14 pick this summer. Colin Sexton on a trade and extension. Colin Sexton, I think, is under a 4-year deal now. 3 unprotected first-round picks in 25, 27, and 29. 2 unprotected pick swaps in 26 and 28. Nick, I'm going to start with you. How do you feel about this return for Donovan Mitchell?
It's a haul. That is a lot. I'm not saying it's an overpay because anytime you get a chance to add a young star, you do it. It's just, you don't get that opportunity all the time. I think it's a great return for Utah. They're well on their way to being good sooner than later. I don't even know if they can fully bottom out this season, frankly. I think they've got more talent than some of these bottom teams do. I'm going to say this, and I want it to be taken with a grain of salt. because I don't think these players are close relative to like the player they are. But I think Colin Sexton gives you damn near the production Donovan Mitchell does as an offensive player. They're both guys that aren't going to be, world beaters on defense, but they both are bucket getters. And I could see Sexton averaging 22 a game this year and like putting up similar numbers. Not that he's the same impact, but from a stats point, like I think he's almost the same.
Especially with the opportunity he'll be given. I think that's a good point. And not just the players that they got in return, but I also think, at first there was a part of me, like I think Woj tweeted out later or put in his article after the trade that at one point, I think he said early July, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Knicks had RJ, Grimes, Robinson, and like 2 first-round picks on the table. And at first I saw that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what is Utah? Why did they not take that immediately? Well, this is why. They didn't really want RJ Barrett, contrary to reports. They didn't want these players in return. They wanted those unprotected first-round picks, just like Presti. They wanted them far out in advance, right? Less predictability, more opportunity for those to be higher return picks. And I don't think that the Knicks were willing to part with those so far down the line where the Cavs were. Like Nick said, it's a lot to give up. They're completely mortgaging their future on this trade. But lucky for them, they have some solid pieces, young pieces in place. And now they all really kind of the stars align for the Cavs. When you think about Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, Jared Allen, I mean, it's really impressive what they've done to be able to pull off a trade like this and still have all those pieces intact. So I liked it for both sides. And I think that's why after thinking about it over the weekend, I like this offer from the Cavs more than I do that initial one, even from the Knicks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think it makes a lot of sense for both teams. I think this is one that for the Cavs, like I got excited for Cavs fans and I got excited as a Thunder fan because I think it's been easy to point out some parallels to what the Cavs have done the last few years to what the Thunder are doing now. And so looking forward a few years, I think it's easy to envision a scenario where Sam Presti cashes in a bunch of picks and goes after a star when they're, ready. I think the Cavs have shown they were ready. They were in the playoff hunt. They, took a swing at it. They had a lot of fun moments with Evan Mobley last year, but like clearly not a championship ready team yet. Cash in those picks, go get another star. And now let's see where you're at. I think OKC could follow a similar path. And Taylor, that's where I take the only exception to what you said of like, I wouldn't say they were mortgaging their future as much as they were betting on it. And I think that's what that'll be when that time comes for Sam Presti. All those picks are there for a reason. We've said it ad nauseum. He's not going to pick all those picks. At some point, when you feel good about it and the options on the table, you're going to cash those in and trade for somebody. Do I think that happens now? Do I think the Thunder are there yet? Absolutely not. But I think they'll get there, and that's exciting to look forward to.
I love that. Really good point.
Kamiar, trying to tie all this back to Oklahoma City. Hypothetically, if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander were to be made available like right now, right before the start of the season, could the Thunder get a trade package in return for Shai similar to what Utah just got for Donovan Mitchell, which was 3 unprotected firsts, 2 unprotected swaps, and a handful of young players, a couple of them pretty promising?
No, I don't think that's. I think that's something that Presti would want, but I don't think that's the return he would get. I mean, Donovan Mitchell has accomplished. Like we can argue about talent wise and talent and all that other stuff, and like where Donovan Mitchell has led Utah, but he also had better pieces around him. We haven't seen Shai as the guy with pieces around him, and he hasn't had a playoff. He's had playoff experience, but he hasn't been the guy in playoff scenarios. And so, no, I don't think he'd get that same return. I think, of course, as a Thunder fan, we'd want him to get that same return, but he wouldn't.
Silva, how big of a gap do you think it is between what Shai could acquire the Thunder in a trade versus what Donnie got?
I actually think it's closer than what Kamiar was saying, only because I think teams kind of think there could be a bit more mystery to Shai because he's been on losing teams. He's been sitting a lot at the end of the seasons for various injuries and, sometimes not. I think teams could convince themselves that there's still some potential yet to be unlocked for Shea. Shea's also a little bit younger than Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is 25. He'll be
About to turn 26, I think.
He is on September 7th. Yeah, 2 days. So he's almost 26. He's Donovan Mitchell's the oldest guy out of the Cavs young core now. Jared Allen's like 24. Garland's 22, I think. Mobley just got drafted, obviously. So yeah, I think if Presti were to make a trade like that, I think with the unknown upside, I think it could be close. Maybe it's one pick less. Maybe it's that same amount of picks, but some protections on one of them. Maybe it's one less swap. I think it'd be close.
Interesting. Well, to try to, since we are a Thunder podcast, try to talk about this Donovan Mitchell trade, but in a more Thunder-centric context. Nick, you kind of touched on this a little bit ago. I want to come back to you on this. Where does this put Utah in the tank running in the West? Like we've talked about how the top tier of the West, there's like so many good teams. We're starting to get a nice little pool of like the trash tier at the bottom of the West now. Utah has definitely entered that chat. So when you look at like Houston, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and Utah now, how do you kind of rank those four from like best, like they're going to have the better record, to worst, meaning they're going to have better lottery odds?
So right now, Utah's the best team. That said, they've got a multitude of guys they're going to be trading likely. You think about Mike Conley, you think about Bojan Bogdanovic, you think about Jordan Clarkson, you think about Rudy Gay. There's all these guys that are good players that contribute now. I don't think Utah has plans for many of those guys to be here long term. And so you've got to think about, like, today they're the best team, but if they traded those guys, they'd be getting picks or players. But even if you take those guys out of the equation and you look at their like rebuilding starting lineup as it sits today, would be Agbaji, Sexton, Stanley Johnson,
THT
starting. And then you could go Markkanen or Vanderbilt, and then Walker Kessler at center.
Kessler, yeah.
That team is probably as bad as the Rockets, Thunder, Magic, Pistons. But then again, like when they trade, if they trade those veterans, they're going to get players or picks back. And so I don't know whether they keep one or two of these guys or trade them all. I still think the Jazz will be a hair better than the Thunder.
Oh, interesting. Justin, if we took this Jazz team as currently constructed, took away Bojan Bogdanovic, took away Mike Conley, and put them in a 7-game series with this current iteration of the Thunder with injured Chet, who wins?
Thunder in 6. And I think that I don't see. I'm not as high on this as Nick is, I guess. I think there's kind of 2 tiers at the bottom going into next season. I think you have Utah and San Antonio that are going to be like chasing all out the number 1 pick. I'd put OKC, Houston, Orlando kind of in that next tier. I think all 5 of those teams very much are going to be gunning for high lottery odds next year. But I've got Utah and San Antonio at kind of a different level than the rest of those teams right now.
I think Oklahoma City, out of those 4 teams in the West, has the best player.
Agreed.
And is it ambitious to say they maybe have the 3rd best player if we pulled all the players from players that are actually going to play next season?
Yep.
If you put all of OKC, Houston, Utah, San Antonio, I think Oklahoma City has player number 1 and 3 in Shea and Josh. Is that ambitious?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm thinking through the Spurs
if you're
players.
taking Mike, and you're talking like the Jazz, if they were to trade Conley and Clarkson and Malik Beasley and Bogdanovic. I forget Malik Beasley's a 20-point per game scorer too.
I think I'm still taking Josh Giddey over Beasley. I think his trade value is higher right now across the league than Beasley. If you pull GMs.
For sure. Mm-hmm. But on-court production is different than trade value.
True. Well, he also impacts the game in different ways. So, like, it depends. If we're looking at a vacuum, like, I think, Nick, you're thinking points per game more heavily influences wins when given the opportunity rather than Josh Giddey impacting the game on different levels, but he's not going to be scoring 22 points per game, to your point. I don't know. I'm still with Justin. I think I would take the Thunder over this team. And to answer your question, Jacob, like, I'm even willing to be even a little more ambitious, and maybe it's a little homer of me, but I think of those young teams right now, the Thunder, and I'm probably grouping Chet into this, even though we know he's not playing this next season. I think they probably have the best young core of any of those teams in the West. Magic
Oh, I think
have an
that's
interesting
definitely
case,
fair.
but yeah.
And if Chet was healthy, I would say the Thunder have the 2 best players on any of those 4 rosters.
But if we turn this back, true. But if we turn this back on Utah, there's a chance 5 seasons from now, 6 seasons from now, maybe they have the best young core.
Yeah.
So that's what's fascinating.
They're at different points.
What Danny Ainge and I forget the GM's name.
I
they've
don't
been
know.
able to do with this. Me either.
Basically, just Danny Ainge.
Danny Ainge.
Kamiar, with this trade, Donovan Mitchell is now in the Eastern Conference. He's a former NBA All-Star at the guard position. DeJounte Murray, who was a All-Star guard last season, now also in the Eastern Conference.
ATL.
Did this trade just move Shea's odds of making an All-Star game this year up?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna ask that question. Yeah, it does. We've talked about how much talent specifically is in the West. I mean, in the East, it's mostly concentrated. You know, we've been talking about it mostly concentrated those top 2 or 3 teams. In the West, it's just there's so many good teams, and if Shea has the year that he's capable of, well, suddenly you've removed Sean J. Murray, who is a defensive guy, but getting more of an offensive game. And then you have Donnie Mitchell, who is a short guard, but massive wingspan with some cool playoff moments. It gives him better odds. Now, am I saying he's going to make an all-star game or that? No, but I'm saying, does it improve his odds? Well, certainly it improves his odds if 2 other really good guards are moved to the Eastern Conference.
Silva?
Yeah, I'm with Kamiar there. And after the loss of Chet, I'm honestly just banking on some ray of sunshine and happiness hitting the Thunder. And I'm gonna be pushing the Shea's an all-star narrative all season long, just to keep things happy around these parts of town.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. No more Donovan Mitchell, no more DeJounte Murray. This is going to be Chris Paul's age 37 season. I think that's right.
Wow.
36, 37.
Yep.
I think there's a chance he misses some games. He takes a little bit of a step back. He doesn't make it. You do have Dame coming back in the West, but I think at that guard position, Shea's got a really interesting opportunity to make his first all-star appearance. I'm on record. I think he will be an all-star this next season.
I think so too. But I do wonder if he doesn't, or not wonder, maybe more so the narrative, but if he doesn't, the articles are going to come out immediately. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander deserved to be an all-star, but he couldn't with his OKC team.
They won't let my man be great.
Trade Shea, free Shea.
Yeah, well, Chris Berman from New York Post already tells us Shea.
Right.
Yeah.
What
next target for New York Knicks?
What is it? Did he misspell the name Shea? He
Yeah.
put the hyphen in the wrong place.
Yep.
Where the hell else would you put the hyphen?
He put it between Shea and Gilgis, and
What
not Gilgis
the
and Alexander.
actual hell? This man thought his name
Ah.
was Shea Gilgis, and his last name on the back is Alexander.
Yeah,
On his
Chris Fisher
defense, he's
watched the
probably
game.
listening to Michael Cage. I mean, understandable.
Holy crap!
We have this thing called Google now
Yeah.
that could have
How would he
taken
spell
care
it
of that
too?
literally
Holy
half a second.
cannoli!
Holy cannoli.
Holy cannoli.
He was talking about
Oh, I
something
ruined
else,
it.
actually.
Hey, guess what? I was muted. Here it is.
Holy cannoli.
Oh,
There it
there we
is.
go. There we
Will
go.
you play the chocolate sounder just for the hell of it?
Never enough chocolate, and I can't wait to see more.
Just a really good sounder. Justin, you started to touch on this just a second ago. Want to circle back to this conversation. Utah's at a different point in a rebuild now.
Yes.
They are where the Thunder were 2 seasons ago, literally getting it down to the studs. Utah is still in that process. They have a ton of picks, though, picks to rival OKC's treasure trove. And the thing with Utah is majority of those picks are unprotected, whereas OKC does have protected picks. Utah has unprotected Cleveland picks, which I kind of question the value of. Those picks start to convey whenever Evan Mobley is entering the second year or his second contract after his rookie scale deal. I think we all here believe Evan Mobley is going to be really good. But they also have a ton of unprotected Minnesota Timberwolves picks. If history tells us anything, it's that those are going to be pretty decent, right?
Yep.
So even though they're at this different spot in their rebuild and they're arguably a couple of years behind Oklahoma City, we now have more teams that have that I can overwhelm you with picks to go get what I want type of trade package. So even though we talked just a second ago, the positive of this, which is maybe Shea has a better chance at the All-Star game this year, how much of a negative is this as far as the tanking competitive advantage for Oklahoma City, considering they are now not the only team that has a treasure trove of assets?
Yep. Price went up 100%. The more teams that have this kind of currency, as Sam Presti refers to draft picks, the more the Thunder are going to have to put together bigger packages to,
Nice. I like bigger packages.
we know. But
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
the more the Thunder are going to have to overpay. Like, it's not as simple as well, nobody can match my bid, so I'm just going to, throw all these picks out there and like you said, overwhelm you. Now you're going to get into a bidding war, and it becomes more strategic at that point. And I think what'll be interesting to see is, when those opportunities arise, what's going to be a lot more important is not just how many picks, but what picks you have. You mentioned like the Timberwolves picks being worth more than the Cavs picks. We're going to be doing a lot more watching of the teams who OKC's, who I can't even word it right. The teams that OKC owns their picks, we're going to be watching them a lot more closely and kind of eyeballing like what those values are going to be. And I think that's what teams are going to be interested in. It's not just, can you give me 7 picks? It's, can you give me 7 picks that are actually going to be valuable, that are actually going to help me get a championship team, help me get top prospects? And I think that kind of changes the game a little bit. I don't think it makes OKC's picks any less valuable. I think it just kind of changes the nature of the types of offers that Presti's going to have to put together.
I think that's what you just brought up, Justin, is really important. And I think it's going to point to a much larger idea of it becoming a league problem, as far as, or viewed as a league problem, where they're suddenly, you'll have your kings that try to win every year, but fail at doing so. But there's going to be a large gap at the top. There could be a larger gap at the bottom for guys trying to get those picks. And I think there could be some maybe like threats of like relegation or like just random NBA rule changes in order to avoid that, because it's suddenly like you're saying, like everybody's trying to go for picks. Everybody's trying to go for the highest amount of availability to get the number 1 overall pick at the draft. And it's not just like OKC is doing it because they're a small market. There has been several teams that are much larger markets that have tanked for years just to get even in the top 3. And so I think as it continues to happen with more and more teams, especially OKC with the Chet injury now, you probably wait another year. Things are going to be more interesting as far as that down the road.
That's a great point, Kamiar. And I wonder as well, like, as much as I agree with that, it makes me equally curious about the flip side. These teams giving up all these picks, how are they able to rebound? The Lakers, who traded all those picks for Anthony Davis, they'll be fine because they're the Lakers. But the Brooklyn Nets, like, let's say the Kyrie, KD thing blows up. Prior to that, even though
what would ever make you think that was going to blow up, Taylor?
Maybe, levitating Kyrie Irving.
Across the bridge.
Across the bridge.
Oh, wow.
But it makes, like, that technically is still a big market team, but they weren't really a free agent destination prior to the Kevin Durant, Kyrie coming to, so I'm very curious to see these teams, even the Cleveland Cavaliers, like 6, 7, 8 years from now, how that all works out. These teams are giving up all these picks. It will be very interesting. But I think you also brought up a good point, Justin, when you talk about the quality of picks. And that reminds me, Jacob, you put together we did this, I can't remember when this was. It wasn't too long ago, when we basically drafted each of the Thunder's draft picks and ranked them like in tiers, most valuable, least valuable.
Like it, love it, hate it.
Like it, love it, hate it. It'd be very interesting doing that now with these other teams that have acquired all these different picks, like Kamiar mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. We are getting to the point where there's like a massive imbalance of draft capital in the league. And it's going to be interesting to see at what point do those scales tip, and yeah, I think it's really fascinating. So Last question I have for you guys. Thunder centric, but in the same vein of this Donovan Mitchell trade. I think this is going to be pretty fun. I don't know how you guys feel. I think OKC is 1, maybe 2 seasons away from making their Donovan Mitchell trade. I know a lot of people have been talking about this. Like the Cavs were in the lottery for like 3 years. They got Darius Garland. They got Evan Mobley. They made their trade for Jared Allen. And then now they've pushed the chips into the middle of the table. They've made the move. They've gone and got their guy. And this is their core. I think we're approaching 1 to 2 seasons away from the Thunder doing that, either next summer or the following summer, pushing all those chips in and going and getting a guy to kind of put the cherry on top of the sundae and get this team going. So I want us to roundtable this and each person choose one player who could be that guy for Oklahoma City, that target, that trade guy. Maybe it's a guy that is currently on a rookie scale deal, but in a year or two won't be. Maybe it's a guy who's already on his second year deal and is going to be 24, 25, 26, 27-ish in a year or two that the Thunder could go get. The trick is none of us can repeat a trade candidate. We have to throw out 6 trade candidates on this show. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Oh,
I've got
Nick
2,
getting it
so
out
I'm
early.
going to take 2 off the board and make it even harder for you guys.
You son of a
They're
gun.
on the same team, and so like the reason I'm doing it this way is because I think it's going to be one of the 2, Onyeka Okongwu or DeAndre Hunter. At some point, one of those 2, whether it's team won't pay them what they want, or the playing time is not there, or whatever it might be, I think one of those 2 guys will be. I know they're not like Donovan Mitchell-esque players today, but I think they both have the ability to be highly impactful guys that are, 10-year starters for the Thunder. So I'm going to go with those 2.
Feels like cheating to do 2 because you just took 2 people off the board.
You weren't going to go with either of those 2.
That's true. That's true. Who I was going to go with, however, is Brandon Ingram.
Oh, interesting.
I think
That's interesting.
I've
That's a good one.
long fantasized about Brandon Ingram on the Thunder. On the Thunder.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
That's a soundbite.
Have you seen his eyes? Anyway, I think that
Hey, you see his beard in those new pictures of him?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Dude.
Oh yeah, it's
He looks
it's
like a homeless
Castaway.
man, and everyone's like, all-star season for Brandon Ingram. I'm like, because he grew a damn beard? Like, where's the logic at here?
That's all
I'm
it
sorry,
takes.
Justin. Continue.
Brandon Ingram, not only do I mean, I love his game. I just think about his situation on New Orleans. I just have my doubts that New Orleans is going to figure it out as long as they have a Zion-sized anchor attached to them. And I think that it's going to just kind of make it a undesirable situation that I could see in a few years down the road. He's like, all right, I'm out. I want to go somewhere where I can contribute. I can have a shot at a championship. I need a new situation. Come to Oklahoma City, baby.
I would like to go next after any discussion.
I just think Brandon Ingram and Chet is the new Thin Towers now.
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense. Is it my turn now? Do I get to go?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Connor's gotta
I'm on
go.
the clock. Well, I could have gone for 2 as well, but I chose 1 instead. You guys know how obsessed I am with this player. I know he's a little bit older, but I think that'll be just fine with the way he plays the game. Jaylen Brown. Push all those chips in, and maybe a couple players that I'm 2-3 players that I'm definitely willing to sacrifice to get Jaylen Brown on this team, and a dude that could give you an easy 25 a night in OKC, especially with Josh and Shea on the same squad. I think it'd be pretty special. Or you might have to even give up Josh and say have Shea and somebody else in Chet. Even then, he's still putting up big numbers for you. He can be a secondary ball handler. He can do a lot. He can shoot the 3-ball well, and he's also got the basketball IQ to do it. So I would definitely push in all my chips for Jaylen Brown.
A guy that's been quote unquote shopped in the past. What if Boston has a bigger fish they're going to go for, like the Kevin Durant trade again, and they don't have the draft capital, and OKC says every Clippers pick, every Houston pick, Trey Mann and J-Dub, here you go. Give us Jaylen Brown, and you have a roster of Shea, Josh, Jalen.
What if they
Chet,
ask? What if they ask for Lou and Josh? Would you do it?
Lou,
all those
Josh, and
assets?
picks?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a yes,
I
right?
hate
I
that
think
Josh
so.
is in that, but like I still, yeah,
Jaylen
still
Brown
do
is
that,
so-
right?
I freaking love that kid, dude.
me too.
But you still do that, right?
I think
You
so.
still do it. You're
Okay.
right. You're
I
right.
think so. And the good thing is
I love
this trade
Josh.
happens in a year or two. And in a year or two, you have a much more clear picture of what Josh is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Trey Mann and some of these other young guys who maybe are equally valuable but don't fit as well. Yeah, no, that's but still, I love Jaylen Brown. I didn't put him on or not. I just didn't consider him here because I knew one of you all would bring him up. But like just one that stood out to me that's maybe less sexy, but if he can get healthy and have a good season this year, I think is an interesting candidate. It's Michael Porter Jr. Obviously, the back injury really, really concerns me. Like, I'm not even sure he's going to completely, no pun intended, rebound from it. But that is one that kind of stood out. My first thought when doing this exercise was to go to the top 25, under 25 at The Athletic, or I think ESPN puts one together too. Because I think those are our most likely candidates. Like you said, Jacob, a guy is on rookie level contracts right now. That's awesome. I'm glad you put that on the screen, Silva. But the big, speaking of sexy, the big
Hey-o.
flashy
What?
one here that is super unlikely, but you just never know. I don't have a lot of faith.
Are you about
in
to
this
take a second name off
franchise.
the board?
Yes, I am, but it's a big one. I don't think you guys would
with
be
these
going
guys
this high.
over here picking
Luka
two
Doncic,
players.
okay?
Oh
I
my
think Luka
gosh.
is the one who would throw
Okay.
everything
This
out
guy.
there on the table because I just don't have confidence that Dallas will build a team around him.
You mean Luka Doncic and Spencer Dinwiddie doesn't do it for you right now?
I don't know. They got Christian Wood. So,
So do I.
speaking of sexy,
Silva, who's your guy?
Some pumpkin pie.
Oh my god.
too much.
Oh, man. Some deep cuts on the show
Okay.
tonight, folks.
I have
That happens with the full squads together.
Well, this may be a surprise to you all, but I have two.
Come on.
If you want, I can just say
Can
one.
no one follow rules
What-
except
one-
for
yeah.
me and Kami are?
we are
Okay,
rule.
Apparently, I'm a
breakers.
good citizen.
The second one is just going to be a throw-in. You know, it's a slightly older player at this point. Number one, 20 years old at this point, yes. Like in 2 years, he'll be 22 years old.
Man,
Quick
man.
maths. Quick
I love
maths.
that.
Weed.
Very important.
Thanks,
We
Bird
said
Hapley.
earlier on this podcast that this team's picks in 2028 or whenever are going to be really valuable. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I'm talking about Anthony Edwards,
Ooh.
a star among stars.
Hey, if things fizzle out in Minnesota
Yep.
and they traded all those picks and they're like, dude, we got to refill the cupboard.
Yeah,
Just unload everything.
unload everything.
Yep.
Whatever it takes. Now, my second one just throw
Nick
it
just smiled and moved up close to the microphone. He is
scared.
excited right now.
Speaking of Christian
in.
Wood.
Scared.
That is like outside of Luca. That's like the one guy. If you said Sam Presti can wave his wand and get anybody in the league, like Anthony Edwards.
It's nuts. He's only 20, and he's
He's
that good.
he's
That
he's
is
an
nuts.
alpha.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine him and Chet on the same team? The amount
Oh
of
my
trash
God.
talk would be insane.
Can you imagine Chet on a team playing?
Oh,
Oh.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Now I'm
Jacob.
Can we
sad again.
remove?
I don't want
Nick
to be
from-
around anymore.
Who's your second guy, Silva?
it is Mikal Bridges after Phoenix
Oh.
comes crashing down. In the
I like
next
that
few
one
years.
too.
We already got Mikal Bridges at home.
J-Dub. Why not have both?
Porque no los dos.
Yep.
All right, I got to put a name out there. And now I thought I was going to have a large pool of players, but you sons of bitches took everybody.
Hey, no, me and Justin stay to the rules. We're
I
good Boy
appreciate you too.
Scouts.
Extra points. I was thinking about this one on Friday night. Silva and I went out and ate some hideaway pizza on Friday night. We chatted kind of about this idea. Mine's kind of like Nick. It's a pool of players. Maybe not a pool of players. Maybe it's just more two guys.
I thought this was the Jordan Poole
Okay.
segue.
could be the Jordan Poole segue because my team that I think the Thunder could strike a trade with is the Golden State Warriors. My eyes were originally on Moses Moody. Obviously, like not a star, but I think he could develop and he could be one of these. You get him in a different system, in a different setting, in a different role, he could really pop. I also considered the cum bucket, Jonathan Kuminga.
All right.
Mark
I
this
went to
podcast.
Silva Sounder.
I wasn't ready.
Holy cannoli.
Dude.
Jonathan Kuminga was
Taylor and
another
the
one.
Sounder went off at the same time.
I don't think he fits the Presti mold of this new era Thunder, but here is where I'm at with the Warriors. I'm sorry, Nick, I'm not throwing your guy James Wiseman in here. He could be a possibility.
Dang it.
Next summer, okay, the summer of 2023, the Golden State Warriors are already on the hook for $160 million. That is without having Andrew Wiggins signed to a contract, without having Jordan Poole signed to a contract, with Draymond Green with a player option who has said he wants to get a very large extension on his contract. If they re-sign Jordan Poole, they re-sign Andrew Wiggins, both to like market value contracts. And even if they keep Draymond at the 27.6 he's currently owed, and then fill out the rest of their roster, they're going to owe like $240 million before the luxury tax. And they are currently a repeater team. That luxury tax bill could be pushing like almost $600 million. That's insane. And then they're going to have to re-up with James Wiseman. They're going to have to re-up with Jonathan Kuminga. They're going to have to re-up with Moses Moody. Maybe this is a scenario where the Thunder can come in and say, hey, instead of having to pay Moses Moody next summer, let us give you some younger guys and some picks. That way you can just kick that can on that extension down the road a couple more years. In the years whenever you don't have Steph anymore, who's aging, and Steph is going to make $50 million. 500's a lot. $50 million next season. $50 million. Like, that's insane.
Ooh.
I really like Moses Moody's game. I think his style of play, he's a good defender. He can shoot the piss out of the ball. I think he could be a great complementary, like a star in his role type player for Oklahoma City. I think he's a guy that could, you put him in the right situation and you put him next to Josh and Shea, he could come in here and shoot 41% from three on like 5 or 6 attempts a game. He could be your 3-and-D type of wing, this play finisher that you need around all these other types of guys. He could play the 3 for you. Golden State's just an interesting one to me. Moses Moody would be the guy at the top of my list there. Kuminga, obviously a very exciting player, super inefficient. He honestly needs to learn how to play basketball.
That's maybe the kind of guy that would fit perfect with a bunch of high IQ guys as that last piece.
That is true. So I think that is an interesting thing to monitor is what is Golden State going to do? Because between last year, next year, and the following year, they're going to pay like $1.5 billion for that team, depending on how the CBA changes.
Yep.
I know they're printing money at the Chase Center, but that's crazy
Still a lot.
money.
I've got one more. I'll make you guys guess who it is with clues.
Clues.
Is it Blues Clues?
This is
Blues
fun.
clues.
What's clue
All right.
number one?
So clue number 1, he's an all-star. Clue number 2, he is a free agent summer of 2024. So that means if negotiations aren't working out, you could get him next season before he becomes a free agent and then extend him.
I feel like I'm playing Pirtle,
Kind of.
the live version with Nick.
Yeah.
Eastern or Western Conference.
He is in the Western Conference on a team that cannot be trusted. And the final clue that's going to give it away, it would be a return to Oklahoma City.
Paul George.
Nope.
Oh,
be a return to Oklahoma City.
Russell Westbrook.
No.
What is it, Demonis Sabonis?
It is.
That's
That's
an interesting one.
It's good.
Well
Pow,
done.
pow, 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 pow.
Look at that. Super common energy coming at you.
The Kings messing something up. I
Never.
can't foresee it happening.
I thought about his return to OKC and how actually really good that actually might pay off, especially with Chet now.
Yeah, he'd be the perfect fit next to
Perfect fit.
Chet. Like,
I
because
love
he
that
can
one.
guard the guys that Chet might struggle with from a
Mhm.
physicality standpoint. He can space the floor. From what I remember, when he got traded away, he still had good things to say about Oklahoma City. I mean, if next season 2023-24 things ain't working in Sacramento, might do it. Yeah.
One other name brought up in the chat here by Vaden. LaMelo Ball?
Ooh, that's a
Charlotte's
high
going
price
nowhere
tag.
fast,
True.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
especially no Miles
right,
Bridges
yeah,
anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Presti
that-
loves a good
gosh.
NBL player.
How high would that price tag be, though?
Crazy.
That would be
I
up there
kind of
too.
question the fit with him
Yeah.
and Shea and Josh on the same team as well.
Where do
We'd
you
probably
compare-
have to include one of those back to
Right,
Charlotte.
For sure.
Where do you compare
There's-
his price tag to Shea? Like, if you are saying Shea is at the bottom of this theoretical scale and Donovan Mitchell's at the top, where do you have LaMelo?
That's interesting because LaMelo just came on the scene and started lighting things on fire, right, in the Eastern Conference.
Can't defend a soul.
Yeah.
Very flashy.
Yeah. I mean, with LaMelo, you see a ton and ton of more upside. I feel like at the end of their careers, I think LaMelo might end up being a better overall like superstar player, right? I think it's more notoriety. But right now, gosh, I think just because how old is LaMelo right now?
He's like 22, 23.
No.
I think he's like
No
20,
way.
21.
He's young.
No, he's younger.
He's,
thought he was
he's
22.
He's 21.
Okay.
Oh,
And
he
he's-
just turned 21. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
he's young.
and he's already doing the stuff that he is in the league. You can just his price tag right now seems like something that you won't. Oh, that's tough.
I almost feel like it's equal.
I feel like you could
Like
get the
those
same
two are-
return for him as you could get for Shea right now.
Me too. But you also have to think about GMs and like,
Yeah.
I don't trust Charlotte. Like if LaMelo came to the front office in Charlotte and requested a trade, and won. We're all Marvel fans. Let's think about a multiverse here, right? You got the multiverse where LaMelo requests a trade with Charlotte, and then a different multiverse where Shea requests a trade with the Thunder. I think Presti's getting a higher return for Shea than
Just because of the negotiations.
correct.
Yeah, that's fair.
Interesting.
Is there a multiverse where we won the title in 2016?
Of course there is. Doctor Strange has seen them all.
It's out there somewhere.
Silva, let's tell the people about the sponsors for the podcast for the week. What's up, Thunder fans? This is Jacob from the Uncontested podcast, and I'm here to let you know that we have fully redesigned our merch store to get you the best Thunder swag available. Just visit cottonbureau.com and search the Uncontested podcast to find all of our new designs. That's cottonbureau.com and search the Uncontested podcast to find new drops like Josh Giddey's Wizard of Oz or an ode to the Trey Man Step Back. We've also got all the classics like Dortal Combat, Liu Tang Clan, and everyone's favorite MVP, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. The best part? You can get any design and the style of apparel you want. So if you're gearing up for the summer and want a tank top, needing a hoodie for the winter in Australia, or you're wanting a Pokemon onesie for your baby, we've got you covered. Make sure to go to cottonbureau.com and search the Uncontested podcast to get your new Thunder gear today. I forgot another name.
This guy.
I gotta throw one more out.
Can I
Are we
guess
going to play the Nick game where I have to
Yeah.
give you hints?
Yes.
No, you
It
don't
better
have to
be.
give me a hint. I think I know it.
Okay.
Oh.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh, that'd be awesome. But no, he's not the guy.
Dang it.
I'll give you hints. not an all-star yet. Eastern Conference. I don't want to give a hint that'll give like a very, very big hint. This probably gives it away. Recently signed an extension. Ooh, RJ Barrett.
Ew.
Wait. Was that an ew or an
Oh, it was an ew.
No,
Kind of came out like an ew. I
it
think that was like
was an ew. It was an ew.
I don't hate RJ. I don't love RJ.
I think he's worth every damn penny of that contract he just signed.
He seems like a very polarizing guy.
Yeah, he is a polarizing guy.
Why don't you like if you're a hater of RJ or you just don't like him
That's
as a
current
player,
22.
tell me why. Like I don't get it. Why don't you like why is he an EU, Taylor?
He can score. He can defend when engaged. But does he impact the game at a high level? Like, I don't know. And can he score consistently? We haven't seen that quite yet.
I think
I'm just kind of
Silva has
torn
a
on
pop.
RJ.
Do we think, and this may not matter, how much is he making per year now? Do we know? When we know.
I think I mean,
I don't know.
I still like him at that contract.
Let me just ask, do we think he's going to be an all-star at any point? And does that matter?
I kind of think he might be.
I think he does.
Taylor said, I don't really like him, but he could
think
be an
he might be.
all-star, and he can score, and
there's
he
bigger
can
fish in the
defend.
pond.
He can score, he can defend, he's 6'7", he can play point guard. I
But he
mean, I
can't
don't
pass.
I'd swap Canadians. I'd give him Lou.
know. For sure.
Some
yeah,
picks.
I mean, I give
Yeah,
him.
duh.
I'm just thinking you'd have to
I'd-
give like Giddy.
I'm not giving that
Shea,
Giddy, Cheddar, Shea.
No.
and that's what's gonna take to get. You know what I mean?
But after
I don't
that, I
know.
think it's kind of interesting. You know,
I think New York really showed their cards. They're willing to give him and 2 unprotected picks and this for Donovan.
Yeah,
So
like
that
they,
is
they,
okay.
and they
Well,
wouldn't give
and
him the
here's
rookie max.
interesting.
They
That makes
may
me
not
think of
be as
something,
high on
Nick.
him.
And actually, the more I think about it, it kind of
Have
in a
we
weird
sold you
world,
on
it
RJ
makes
to the
sense.
Thunder?
not necessarily, but like we read the article of what's his face who doesn't know what he's talking about. SHAE Gilgis space Alexander. But regardless, if the Knicks really do have their eyes set on Shea, once RJ would be trade eligible, whenever that, what is it? He can't be traded or like added to a trade.
he's got that poison pill
Because,
provision.
yeah, the poison pill. That's right.
Some people got that dog in them. Some people got
have the
that poison pill in them.
It'll
What?
happen.
What?
If Shea
For-
does
for
one
what-
out, like RJ, and all those picks for Shea, it's interesting.
Mhm.
So you would take the Knicks
I
hypothetical
wouldn't take
offer
it.
for Shea?
No, I think there's better trades out there. I'm on record 2 podcasts ago saying I think Shea's trade value would be higher than Mitchell's and maybe even close to Kevin Durant's. That's spicy.
For what it's worth on the Woj pod, he kind of mentioned, I think it was Woj, maybe it was Zach Lowe, mentioned that if that trade with the Knicks and the Jazz happened and RJ went to Utah, that Utah would probably look to flip RJ later on down the line for a picks package.
Hmm.
I would do it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If it just took picks, I
That's
would do
fair.
it. Very interesting. All right. We sent out the bat signal for mailbag questions all over social media. You guys showed out. We
Did we
got some
get
really
any in
fun.
the actual mail?
No, the snail mail
No
doesn't
letters.
exist anymore.
Well,
Hey, that's not true. You've been using it for stickers.
Oh,
every
yeah.
day I get an email. Every day I hope it's from a female. No, it's not from a female. You guys know what that's from?
I do not.
No.
Homestarrunner.com, baby. Strong bad.
All right, Silva, read us some mailbag cues.
Question number 1 from @Huslig Ryan. If the Hawks pairing of Trae Young and DeJounte Murray fails and Trae Young were to ask out, would you trade SGA to get him?
Yes.
I'm emotionally torn.
I say no.
It's a big old no for me as well.
What? A guy that
I-
can give you 30 and 10 any night?
I know that. I also think he's like a bottom 5 defender in the NBA.
What is Shea as a defender though? I
I
think
think
we,
his
we always
ceiling
like
is
to talk
higher.
about these guys that can't play defense, but Shea Gilgeous
Shea can't
Alexander
either.
really hadn't shown
Yeah,
he can play
if we want
defense.
to, if we
Yeah.
want to look at, dude, just look at the Warriors, right? Like, let's reverse it. Let's put like young Steph in place of Trey, and you're like, nah, I'm good. And the next thing you know, you fast forward however many years, as long as you have a defensive core and another guy that can knock down shots, I mean, with that, the skill set Trey has, I think you would. And I think you probably should. Obviously, Steph has won several finals MVPs, obviously several finals in which he is the core guy. He's the driving factor. And this year, in fact, he was the actual driving factor for this team. And still's winning titles at that age, because we have to remember he spent all 4 years in college. He's older, and a lot of guys think he is.
That's true. Ugh.
If Shea told
I
me he
still don't
wants
know if I
out,
do it.
if Shea said trade me, I'd pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's a different situation.
That's different.
Right.
I can't get past what I saw at Oklahoma, and I worry about locker room chemistry, fit, culture,
Coaching.
all those things that Presti has baked into the Thunder. I don't know that Trey fits.
Interesting.
He's
That's
saying
my
Trey's-
hesitation.
he's saying he
Okay,
can't
let's be
Ice
honest
Trey
here.
in
You think
OKC.
Trey's too much of a diva to be on this team?
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is
Just say
fair.
it. Just say it.
Now there is a world where he wants to come back home or whatever, and like maybe he's a candidate for what we talked about here in the previous segment of targets for OKC.
Yeah, why trade Shea
When you can
when
trade
you can
Giddey,
just trade something else? Pair them together. All right,
Trade
Silva, let's hit the
Giddey.
next question.
Then question number 2 from @BrotherReed11. What are the chances that
Hell
Chet
yeah, brother.
that Chet wins Rookie of the Year next season when he plays?
I've said this several times in the Slack, because like he's just going to get a lot of pull work in. This man's actually going to get a little bit of lifting in. He's going to fill out his body, see the game at an NBA pace from the sidelines, end up in the box, I imagine, for a while, and going to come back and win Rookie of the Year. I know people like, oh, what about Wemby? Yeah, I'm very aware of that, but Chet year 2 with 1 year of strength conditioning after the Liz Frank injury. And also just seeing the pace of play is going to do him so much good just for being there. So yeah, I'm on board with that 100%.
I think it's interesting. I looked back at a few examples of guys that missed their first season and then won Rookie of the Year. I mean, I think we're all familiar with Ben Simmons. We're familiar with Blake Griffin. I didn't remember David Robinson being one of those people who missed his first year and then went on to win Rookie of the Year in his second season. I think everything Kami are saying is valid. I'm going to lean towards no, though, only because I think that I still have too many unknowns about, like, yes, Chet's going to put a lot of work in, but like, is it going to take some time to get back to game shape coming off this injury, even with the amount of work that he's going to put in? Like, I could see it taking half a season before he's kind of back doing Chet-like things that we expect him to do.
Oh, interesting. See, I think he does all that during the summer.
yeah,
I think whenever we go to Vegas next summer, he's playing Summer League again.
I think it's got to be in NBA competition, though.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
that's fair.
he can work on it, and I think he will work on it, and I think he'll make progress, but actually playing in the NBA is a different game.
I just think the 2023 draft is so strong that there's just way more competition. I think Chet's going to be in the conversation. I really do. That's how high I am on Chet, but that 2023 draft, there's some solid players.
I'll say Chet's top 3. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to Rookie of the Year, though. Silva, what's the next one?
Question number 3 from the highest flyer. Who has more pressure to perform this season, Poku or Baisley? Who makes the team better in the long run if they both reach their ceilings?
It's a really good question.
Is that Mitch
Nick?
McGee's burner?
Could be.
Nick, why don't you lead us off on this one?
I think Poku has a higher ceiling, so if they both reach their hypothetical ceilings, Poku's the better player. I think more pressure to perform, probably Baisley, just given he is in a contract year. And then the question on who fits the team better. I think Poku, if he can become the role player. We talked about this on a few podcasts ago. Like at this point, he's not a all-star type player. We thought he might have the potential upside for it being a 7-foot guard when Thunder drafted him. But I think he could be a really, really highly impactful 3-and-D guy. If he can knock down threes and be disruptive defensively, like he is exactly what the Thunder need. It's like their 8th or 9th man when they're contending.
I think that's the right answer. I think Poku has the higher ceiling. I think this is a bigger year for Darius Baisley, though. Baisley's at the end of the runway, right? The plane either takes off or it crashes and burns and everybody dies.
I just think about the second half of the season and try to imagine it and try to imagine what Sam Presti would prioritize. Again, either more upside again with Poku, or a guy like Baisley who just completely leans 100% into a role like Rodman did. Rodman did nothing. I'm not comparing Rodman to Baisley. Don't say that. It's not stupid. But like Rodman leaned completely into, I'm going to play hard defense. I'm going to rebound the hell out of the ball. And it helps win championships. I know it's the modern NBA, so like shooting threes is paramount. But if he's able to do any sort of pick and roll, Bays could be a guy too. So that last one is a little bit tough for me on that. I could see either way.
Justin, Taylor, any life-changing thoughts on this one?
I agree. I think what's hard to nail down is like what even is Poku's ceiling. I think I still have a wide amount of variance on that. And, you know, if he reaches this hypothetical ceiling that I think is there just based off like his rough skill set and his frame, like he's going to be a great player. I just don't know if that's even like realistic at this point.
Mm-hmm. The ceiling has definitely come down. Like the realistic ceiling has definitely come down.
Yep.
Silva, hit us with the next one.
All right. Someone typed in a question that is apparently from me. It just says, are those people ziplining outside?
You're never going to live that one down.
Never. Nothing I did. I will not live down.
There are people ziplining in Vegas. It's just on Fremont Street. So you were right.
It's not at the airport.
Not the airport.
Okay, next question. From Comprehensive Lab 232. If the Thunder decide to part ways with Mark Daignault, who's the next coach you would want the Thunder to take and why?
I think if they're parting ways with Dags, it is because it's kind of the Scott Brooks effect, right? You took us to a certain point and you've met your ceiling, but this team needs to go to a different level and we need a different style of person in here to do that.
Mike D'Antoni.
Oh, God, no. He'll probably be dead by that time.
Next season?
I think Quinn Snyder's an interesting one.
Snyder is an interesting one.
No.
Anyone from the
Spurs
Spurs
tree
is an interesting one.
Snyder
Will
looks
Hardy's
like
been
a
on my
guy
wish
that
list since
partied too hard.
Mark. I love Hardy. I think that was a great hire by the Jazz. But like Presti loves those like college coaches, bringing them in.
You gonna bring in Kevin Ollie?
Yeah, I know Kevin
Dude.
Ollie.
All
Coach K
cuts
hires.
tonight.
I think it'd be a younger person.
I do too.
I know Quinn's not young.
I don't know. I don't know if it would be a younger person.
Hear me out.
I could see like that transition being like somebody that's established, respected, take them to the promised land.
You telling me Coach K's at Charleston's?
Not saying Coach K.
Jay Wright.
The Yardbird.
Jay Wright.
Yeah, Jay Wright.
That's a good one.
He just retired from Nova. He might come out. Would you consider Van Gundy?
Which one?
The fat one.
The answer is no.
No.
The answer is no. Either way.
I was gonna say
I like how you said the fat one.
The fat one.
Hey, he is the fat one. What about Carlisle?
He hates.
We've
young
talked about him.
players.
We've talked about him on this podcast a few times.
He
was
does
gonna
not.
say-
He does not fit on the Pacers.
I was gonna say Monty Williams.
Oh, dude.
Keep dreaming.
Yeah.
No, but like again, put this in. I don't know, 4 years.
In the multiverse.
No, not in. Not in
There's a
Doesn't
soundbite.
boy.
So I'm
And
gonna
the
say that one.
Spurs.
That was awesome.
but like really, like put this in 4 years. Let's say. Like,
I
Chris
wonder if
Paul
there's too
is-
much like
That I totally get. Like the personal
geographical
side,
trauma.
Yeah, I wonder that too, which
totally
sucks.
get that.
And
But
totally
like,
understandable.
in 4 years, the Suns may be kind of a dying star, if you will, and it might be time for Monty to move on to another weather
Rising
phenomenon.
star.
One more. Becky Hammond.
Isn't she in the finals right now?
I'd be more okay with Becky when we are hiring Diggs than I think I would for the next step. I still
fair.
I kind of feel like you want somebody that's like, has proven it.
You know
don't want
that
another
She's in the
Billy
finals
Donovan.
right now, Justin.
You don't want another Billy Donovan. That's what I'm getting at. Like,
you know that none of these names we're throwing out there would actually be the real hire. It'd be an assistant on some
Hey,
staff somewhere.
It's
Yep.
whoever Kamiar says, because he's the one that guessed Mark Daignault last time.
pressure's on.
Did you really? Wow.
Super call me our brain. Hitting at you twice. Same podcast.
All right, Silva.
Let's see. Key question number, whichever question this is. Key initiative 80. Yeah, key initiative 8120. If you could pair any player in the league with Chet in the front court, who would it be? Not sure how realistic it could be, but I think a Bam Chet front court would be unreal.
That's a great one.
I think I've got the easy answer here. Evan Mobley.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Jokic
Or
is
Jokic.
fun.
Anthony Davis, if he was
Embiid.
actually healthy.
Yeah.
Same
In
for
the
Embiid,
multiverse.
yeah.
I think I said Onyeka Okongwu a couple weeks ago. I still kind of think that'd be cool.
Can I make another
like a-
Christian Wood reference on this podcast? That's a joke. I don't want that guy on this team.
Mobley's fun.
Mobley's a good one. The Bam one is really fascinating too.
Yep. I love Bam.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
Bam
Heat-
Marquette.
let the Heat keep their players.
Can't have Bam and Shea.
Yeah, let's see. Ben Simmons effect.
Oh, yeah.
Brooklyn Nets, Miami Heat trade.
Why do I feel like I've
hypotheticals.
never heard about that until this year?
Never really happened.
I remember it
I
from
think it's going to get
something
changed.
else.
I think it's because
True.
there's so much player movement with young guys now that it normally.
Any other ones that really
good
jump
point.
off the page?
Sabonis.
Yeah.
Nick is riding that train. I
Boom.
love it. I can't think of any others.
Cat. I don't know if we.
Yeah, fair. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Meow. Did you just meow? you cat?
See, yes.
Meow, what are you talking about?
Last one.
Yes, we're waiting on you, buddy.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. We have one more
Bated
basketball
breath.
related before we
Well,
end with that one.
Jacob said next question on the other 7 that we did, and then
Fair enough. I saw this one in the chat. I want to bring it up because I think
Yes.
the one that we have in the dogs is going to end on.
Mhm. Oh, you better read it.
I did kind of leave you hanging there.
No, it's
I
fine. I, just
apologize.
got left hanging twice in a row. Anyway,
Just
from-
like those guys that were ziplining. They're just out
Yeah.
there hanging.
question from Brian Sinot. Please correct me in the comments. Question: given his age, is it smarter for Giddey to prioritize?
This is going off the rails.
Give
Keep it together, producer.
Junior.
All right. From Brian, given his age, is it smarter for Giddey to prioritize bulking first rather than the 3-ball, as he may have to make more adjustments to the stroke if he bulks later?
How much more bulk do you
Good
want Josh
question.
Giddey to have? That dude is already beefy.
Yeah, I'm good.
He's
with
already
him
at,
right
like,
where
I
he
think they're
is.
going to weigh in this year around like 220-ish.
Yeah, he's already ideal
big dude.
size. And either way, even if he was 200 pounds, there ain't nothing ahead of fixing that 3-point shot on his
Yeah.
list of things to develop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
And those mechanics are going to carry over regardless of
He's
your
not going
weight.
to
You
get
have
that
to
buff.
adjust it.
He's not
Yeah.
going to pull a Mike freaking Bibby.
Dude.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Steroid up.
Mike Bibby is juicing more than anybody probably on planet Earth.
Yeah, even more than Jamba Juice. That's why they went out of business, because Mike Bibby took all their fucking stuff. You know.
All right, so the last one.
All right, last question from AA Smoot.
AAA Ron.
Yeah. How did you guys meet, and how did the podcast come to be?
Oh, this is a fun one.
Fun story.
It's a good question.
So, Comier and I have been best friends since a long time ago. It's been a decade.
It's about a decade, yeah.
About a decade. I've known Silva since he was just a wee lad.
Yeah.
I've known
Still-
Civil since he was
still
like
is a
6
wee
years
lad.
old.
I've
Yeah.
known Phil since he was in high school.
I wanted to start a Thunder podcast. Kamiar told me, do it. So I was like, all right, let's start a podcast. I had interacted with Taylor on Twitter in the past. We had talked basketball and Game of Thrones. So I sent out feelers to Taylor. I was like, hey, Taylor, would you be interested in starting a podcast? And Taylor was like, yeah, dude, that sounds great. So it was me, Kamiar, and Taylor. Taylor said, hey, I got a buddy from high school that I think might be interested in doing this, might want to talk some basketball. And he called up his old buddy, Nick Crane.
That was a mistake.
Ram
It's funny at the time.
Or whom?
At the time, I wasn't even on NBA Twitter. I wasn't on Thunder
Yeah.
Twitter. I didn't listen to a single podcast. Like I didn't know who local beat writers were. I was just out in the
Yeah.
blue on my
How
own.
much did that phone call or that text message like legitimately change your life, Nick?
Oh, I mean, it's like everything. Literally, like I
So
talk
what I'm
all the
hearing
time.
is, Nick, when we get off, we need to talk some royalties.
Royalties, yeah. No, seriously, people always ask like how did you get into writing and doing all this stuff? And I'm like, literally the podcast. Like if I had not joined this
Yeah.
podcast, I would not be like my life would be like materially different. Legitimately.
Agreed. I think for all of us. And Jacob mentioned, he reached out to me. We were talking about it. Shout out old Justin Hickey. Justin.
That's
and
not
Jacob
even his
were talking
last
about
name.
Thickness.
Yeah, it is.
Like me.
Thickness.
Yeah, what?
Thickness.
Yes,
Thickness. But him and Jacob are kind of starting this up, and Jacob was like, yeah, I got my buddy Kamiar. He's going to do it with me. Do you know anybody who'd be really good for this? I'm like, well, Nick. And Nick and I had grown up playing against each other, like playing basketball against each other, getting to know each other. Like
Used to
since
dunk
fourth
on your
grade.
head.
Wildcats. And then we became like best friends in middle school. Yeah, he played for the Wildcats. I played for the Knights. I remember it. Great rivalry. Okay, up there in all time and future Wasso Ram.
Who let Taylor start telling this story?
Yeah, it goes way back. Anyways, and Nick and I became really, really, really good friends in middle school and high school, and so he's one of the first ones I thought of because Nick and I always would talk and text about Thunder basketball and stuff. And that's
Former
how we
ball
came on.
boys. We got former Thunder
Ball
employees
boys, that's
here.
right.
Really?
Like 3 or 4 games. Got to do a playoff game.
Hey.
Ooh, Nick, really funny. We mentioned this a couple times, but Nick stuffed Serge Ibaka one time, completely unintentionally, and it was hilarious. He got really
Accidentally
pissed.
blocked his shot and they
He
yelled
like some
something in a
like
different
Congo
language.
yell. It was horrifying.
That's incredible. And then I think it was a year into the show. Was it a year? Or was it 2 years? Anyway, I was perusing Twitter
I think it was a year.
in early October before the season started. And I saw some tweets of a Thunder jersey leak from an unnamed Twitter account just called OKC Tracker. And so I slid in the DMs and I was like, hey, this is really awesome that you got this scoop on this Thunder uniform, yada, yada, yada. And we started chatting a little bit. And I said, I host the Uncontested, this Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Your graphics are really cool. Your angle on covering the team and the uniform stuff and all that is really cool. Would you want to join our team? And he's kind of thought about it for a little bit. I think just had his second child.
This is true. That
And
was a
Justin-
big point of hesitation.
Now he's up to 11.
Justin decided
chasing Nick Cannon.
decided
Too
he
many
was going to
poops in
join
the
the
pool.
podcast, and the rest is history. Justin, do you want to give the Taylor level spiel of your background on how you got here, starting from when you were in your dad's nutsack?
Wow.
No, I was like, I don't like the sound of my voice, so this could be interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We were thinking you were coming on just to do graphics, and then like somehow or another we talked you into, or
Yeah.
you decided you'd come on the pod, and we were like, wait, this guy's like better than we are.
Yeah, do you guys remember Justin's first pod? Because I
Yeah.
remember he logged in and I was like, holy shit, this guy is like
He's
incredible
tall.
at this. He's so like
Great.
natural.
I had the Encyclopedia
remember it that
Britannica
way.
beside me looking up words you were saying, Justin.
I don't remember it that way.
I very much remember it that way. I was like blown away on your first
Me too.
podcast.
Well, thanks, guys.
He was talking about photosynthesis and chloroplast and mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
I thought this was a
Always has
biology
been.
podcast, not a basketball podcast.
Anything stick out to you from whenever you first joined the show, Justin?
I thought it'd be really fun to have like a shtick, like when you introduced me. I mean, I still do, but at the time I was like, I'm gonna quote like rap lyrics, or actually specifically Outcast lyrics. And after about 6 episodes, I was like, man, this is hard. And
I got one of them.
You're very quickly scraping the bottom of the barrel, and so I simplified that.
I love it. And then JD joined us. When did you join us, JD?
Well, I was in journalism.
Has it been a
school.
full year now?
Yeah, I was was like helping you guys. I was like making intros and stuff. It used to be my voice like doing the intro. I would like
Yeah, it was.
introduce you guys over the
That's
intro. I
right.
was doing that. Yeah, when I was at UCO, I was like chipping in that way, and then I think I officially joined. It was like right at the beginning of was it last season? The beginning of last season?
That's
Yeah, I
what I
think
was
it
thinking.
was.
It was about this
Yeah.
time. I just remember, but
Yeah.
before that though, like you said, you started doing our intros, and they
Yeah.
were way better because we were just like patching stuff together before that.
Mhm.
And so you put together some of the intros for us, and I remember like we're going through our like doing the post games, and it's hard to cover 82 games, especially when there was only 4 or 5 of us, and we were like, we need some extra bodies, and Jacob mentioned that he had you, so you came on and did a couple post games with us, and then
Mhm.
rest is
Yeah,
history.
good time.
Silva came on as a guest a few times, and then we extended the offer for him to like fully produce the show. So he's the one that kind of does all the behind the scenes stuff, making us sound good, putting together the sounders, all of that.
Yeah.
That's the team, man. Don't foresee us adding anybody
Everyone's
else.
losing their damn mind right now.
I know this
Listen, y'all,
podcast.
I've been up since 4 a.m. I'm
Oh,
at
This
the
oh
end.
my
podcast has lost its
gosh.
I'm
mind.
at the end of it.
That sounds terrible.
Woo!
And last thing on that note, not to be biased, I'm biased. I'm not trying to be biased, but I am. Like, we have the best graphics and merch, I think, of like any Thunder outlet. I think Justin is just absolutely incredible on that end. I think our content is very original, very fun. I think we're super consistent. The producing that JD does
Gas us up, Jacob.
is incredible. I think it's really cool. Like we do awesome stuff, and we've all dedicated a big chunk of our life to doing this show. I don't know. I love it. It wouldn't be the same. I wouldn't know 3 of you guys without this show, and now I consider all of you guys like really good friends. So
Oh, that was
Aw.
sweet.
next part of the podcast, let's hierarchy the best uncontested members. Justin, you're first.
Uncontested post draft.
Twitter
I just wanna say-
poll.
we'll snake
after the
draft it.
podcast.
We are. This is crazy. We have 249 reviews on Apple Podcasts. Like that.
Who
that
wants to
that's
be
just
Magic
crazy.
250?
250. That's right.
Yeah, who's
You
going to
got
be the
stickers
number
coming.
250?
Somebody in the chat right now, go give us our 250th review.
The
on
other
Apple
thing that's
Pods.
crazy is I think we're getting somewhat close to like 1,000 episodes, which is
I know. I was
wild.
looking at that
Nuts.
earlier.
We'll have to do something special for episode 1K.
What are we at?
We got to get Trey 1K on episode 1K.
Boom.
What are we at,
Hey,
though, for
We're
real?
besties. I saw
I don't
him at
know. I'll have
Wellesley
to look it
last
up.
week.
I'll have to look it up. But I mean, I never would have gone to Vegas this summer if it wasn't for this podcast. I mean, we've hosted watch parties. We had random people showing up in Vegas. Hey, I love the pod. Can I get a picture? And I'm like, I have no clue who you are, but you know my voice. That's like insane to me.
Yep.
Really cool experiences. So awesome. Silva, let's pump that outro music. People are tired of listening to us talk. Thank you guys so much for checking out the Uncontested. We really appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We will be back. In a couple of days on Wednesday. We did a belated show tonight. Pushed it back a day. So we'll be back in 2 days on Wednesday to talk more basketball. Hey, this month, training camp, media day. We are less than a month away from the first preseason game. Hoops are about to be back, and we're going to have actual stuff to talk about, including J-Dub's Rookie of the Year campaign, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's All-Star run. It's going to be a blast. So keep it posted right here to the Uncontested, all of our social channels. We'll talk to you guys soon. Until then, as always, Thunder up.